and welcome to Correspondence, the best from France 24's teams around the world. In this edition, we report from Ecuador on the locals fighting back against devastating deforestation. We'll be heading to Gabon in West Africa, where tough anti-Covid restrictions have sparked protests and jailings. Meanwhile, in almost virus-free Australia, the movie industry is making hay. But we start in Iraq, where another spike in coronavirus infections is putting pressure on a creaking health system. Despite help from international aid agencies, the country lacks doctors, treatments and infrastructure. Lucille Wasserman and Jack Houston gained access to a rare intensive care unit in the capital, Baghdad.
Another admission to intensive care, another panic struggle to survive. They must move quickly to stabilise this woman's critical condition. Each breath is a battle. Some of these doctors are Iraqi, some foreign. All have the same goal, to keep these patients alive, all suffering the severest symptoms of coronavirus.
This patient arrived in the emergency room having already had symptoms for several days. She arrived in critical condition, as we often see here. They arrive with a high need for oxygen already.
This unit is managed by Médecins Sans Frontières. There are only 51 beds here, now all occupied.
Our intensive care has been full for 4.5 days. So every time a patient dies or is sent home, another patient arrives within the hour.
For the new arrival, only in her 60s, hope evaporates quickly. After an hour of fighting, another soul is lost to Covid-19. Mistrust of the authorities and stigma surrounding the disease causes many patients to wait until it's too late. Only the most severe cases are taken by this particularly efficient unit. In Iraq's hospitals, it is rare to see single rooms and so much medical equipment. Decades of crises and corruption have led to the disintegration of the entire health system.
The Iraqi health system is very, very poor. My mother was in another hospital before, and she developed kidney failure. They didn't even have the machine to treat her.
Here, all families typically come to see their loved ones, but very often without protective equipment, disregarding the risk of contagion.
No, I'm not afraid. I stayed here the last 2 days and the last 2 nights. My daughters are coming to take over.
Suddenly her husband's life hangs by a thread. A new fight, a new failure, a new broken family. For weeks, the death toll has skyrocketed in Iraq. And yet outside, measures to curb the epidemic are only being lifted.
Next to the West African nation of Gabon, which has some of the toughest anti-Covid restrictions on the continent. But protesting against them can see you end up in jail, as those accused of organising demonstrations have found out. This from Landry Kouassi and Regina Sondo.
Employees cry out in despair in front of a hotel in Libreville. They have been on technical unemployment for a year. Beatrice is one out of thousands of Gabonese who no longer receive social protection because of the economic crisis.
On nous payait chaque fin du mois. Ils ont tout coupé. Plus de salaire. Nous n'avons plus rien. Nous n'avons plus rien à manger. Là où j'étais logé, on m'a chassé.
For several weeks, people in Gabon have been living under one of the continent's strictest lockdowns. Measures to tame the surge of the second wave, such as curfews and business closures, have paralyzed the country's economy, giving room for growing protests.
Ils sont en train de partir là pour la prison centrale de Libreville.
This activist filmed young Gabonese who opposed health restrictions going to prison. Their movement had brought together thousands of people banging pots and pans to protest pandemic health measures. At least 2 persons were killed when clashes erupted between police and protesters.
Pour avoir cogné sur des casseroles, ils ont été envoyés en prison pour incitation à la révolte et atteinte à la sûreté de l'État. Je pense que c'est réduire vraiment à zéro l'image de notre système judiciaire.
Members of this human rights NGO have decided to meet the judiciary head-on. They gather in their headquarters to decide how to help the protesters detained without trial.
Rien ne justifie leur incarcération, leur présence à la prison centrale. Nous avons les pôles d'avocats, des avocats qui sont constitués automatiquement quand il y a des arrestations arbitraires. Et pour le moment, nous sommes en train d'engager des démarches déjà pour libérer ces jeunes.
Authorities in Gabon did not want to comment on the situation in the country. The protesters may not be scheduled for trial in the next 3 months. While waiting, Gabonese hope the government implements new social protection measures.
Another side to the pandemic now in Australia, which is all but COVID-free. With society and the economy open, it's become a refuge for several industries, including cinema, and is proving popular with the producers of Hollywood blockbusters. This from Gregory Pless and Rochelle Harrison.
It's affectionately known as the Hero, a drone that's captured images for films such as Mortal Kombat and Alien Covenant. This company, specialising in aerial cinematography, is just one of many rapidly growing Australian businesses, thanks to a boom in international productions. They're scrambling to keep up with demand, as filmmakers flock down under to shoot blockbusters and big-budget series for the likes of Disney and Netflix.
We've had to grow and find more people to service the jobs, and we're building plenty of new drones and trying to advance the technology.
It's a similar story in this Sydney visual effects studio. With the coronavirus pandemic shutting down film and TV productions around the globe, Australia is fast emerging as the new Hollywood, at least for the time being.
It's pretty funny, that shot. We are seeing a lot of new business requests, like a lot more than we've ever seen in the past. I'd say almost double what we saw in 2019, just in the last 6 weeks alone. It's like the whole world's film production has pivoted to start filming in Australia ASAP.
The country's COVID-free status, diverse locations and world-class studios have all helped to attract filmmakers. But it's a €260 million location incentive grant from the Australian government that's driving the current boom.
11 productions have been announced since July, since that funding was first announced. Not only that, but of course they're hiring thousands of Australians.
The grant scheme is expected to create over 11,000 jobs. The government is hoping its investment will pay off, attracting productions that will lift the industry for years to come, even after the pandemic.
Finally, we head across the Pacific to Ecuador, a country which has been ravaged by deforestation. But people in one region are now fighting back with the help, on the face of it at least, from a logging company. This from Thomas Nicolon and Erin Ogunkei.
In the village of Chontaduro, Don Umberto takes us to his plantation. He owns more than 150 hectares of land, where he grows cocoa, mangoes, and many more species of fruit trees. 35 years ago, he arrived here with nothing.
It was an unspoiled land. There was only forest. Only forest. Lots of wild animals and fish everywhere.
Chachi indigenous people like Umberto speak of an untouched wilderness that is mostly gone today. Deforestation is rampant in this region of Ecuador. Many locals are trying to reforest their properties in order to make a living out of their trees, either by selling fruit or wood. Oddly enough, the main logging company in the area is supporting this initiative.
The deal says that they cut trees and then they give us seeds to reforest. But when we started, we didn't know much. So we planted everything and then realized later that the tree species they gave were not good for reforestation. It's not quality timber.
Why would a logging company give seeds to indigenous communities?
I think that company is trying to clear its conscience, but they don't plant anything. It's nothing compared to what they cut down.
Environmental NGO Fundación Hocotoco runs 2 reserves in the area. They decided to help the Chachis reforest as well, hoping to make real change.
We're planting trees in order to try to recover what there was before. But I think we won't be able to get back what we had, because most of the forest has been cut down. Regenerating a forest that has been wiped out can take many years.
For some, the initiative is too ambitious. But if it works, the Chachis could both regrow a forest and earn a proper living.
That's it for this edition. Our thanks for watching. Our thanks to George Yazbek for the camera work. Producing was Yong Chim. I'm going to leave you now with some images from one of the world's key trade routes, the Suez Canal, up and running once more after being blocked by the giant Ever Given container ship. Dislodging it was, of course, a massive operation.